Hey, y'all, and welcome to this first Bread Theory interview. Bread Theory interviews is going to be a series of, interviews where I talk to people who have stories that they want to talk about, projects that they're working on, and other such thing. Today, we have a black comrade who is in the middle of litigation against a big tech company and wanted to come on and share their story. Would you like to speak and give a little bit of background before we dive into it?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Alison McDonnell. I go by the Twitter handle Candace Owens Struggle Edges. Um, you can kind of gauge where I'm coming from. Like you said, I'm currently in litigation with a former employer of mine, VMware International. They are a subsidiary of Dell. And I filed a lawsuit against them, a racial discrimination lawsuit against them for failing to promote me to a position that I had applied for, of which I believe I was extremely well qualified for. And the person that they chose, I do not believe was as qualified as me. And that's why I'm filing the racial discrimination lawsuit, because she is a white woman and I'm a black woman. So that's the only real difference I could see. Also, aside from the fact that I'm super qualified and more qualified, that I felt that I was more qualified than her.
Yeah, and I think we'll get into those details of like, 'cause as people understand more, they'll get to understand like where the racial angle coming from. And this
Yeah.
isn't so called. Oh, this is just like a black person with the sour grapes because they didn't get a job. Like this isn't
Yes.
this ain't that. And if you motherfuckers think this is that, well, then you need to get a reality check. And it all
Exactly.
is. So let's just dive right into it. Uh, so you talked a little bit about the lawsuit and why you decided to file, but do you want to go more into detail on that?
So yeah, I decided to file because this is not an isolated incident. Their former CEO, Pat Gelsinger, had even gone on an interview in the US. He went on an interview and he basically, in so many words, he basically admitted that, they have pretty poor numbers or low numbers with regards to Black people and other people of color, but specifically Black people because it was surrounding the unrest that was occurring in the U.S. in 2020. So last year, he he went into it talking about we're working to kind of up the numbers, things like that. So this again wasn't an isolated incident. I was the only Black person that worked in the building,
Mm-hmm.
um, which is hilarious to me.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so I was the only Black person that worked in the building.
right.
There, as a total, there was probably about, I want to say about five Black people that worked on the campus in
Mm-hmm.
Cork and Ireland. And this isn't a case of, for example, because a lot of people will say, oh, well, there's just not loads of qualified Black people, but that's not true either, because the Office of Statistics here in Ireland have published a report saying that basically foreign Blacks are five times more likely to be unemployed in their sector. And we're also the group that are more likely to be educated to degree level in our sectors. So that doesn't really make sense. So,
So there's a contradiction between how much
yeah,
education the black people who live in Ireland have versus how much they're finding employment.
exactly. And it's foreign Black people.
Foreign black,
Now,
not just so not even native blacks, but like black people coming from outside of Ireland into the country are less likely
exactly.
to get a job despite being more educated
Exactly. Then other minority
than
groups.
the other minority groups. Okay, we
Yeah,
gotta. It's very important to get the specifics on those stats right.
exactly. Exactly. So yeah, so that's kind of, that's again, it was the numbers don't show that. At VMware International, at the year that I was there, so 2019, that globally their workforce, the percentage of blacks in their workforce globally was less than 3.5% or something like that, less than 3%. Um, and also, and if you narrowed that down to the executive level, blacks globally held those positions. I think it was less than 1.5%.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the numbers are abysmal, basically, and yeah, so that's basically why I decided to file the lawsuit, because both the numbers and the situation that happened to me and other things I had seen there whilst I worked there kind of were hand in hand. And that's why I decided to file the lawsuit, because I was tired of this.
Right. So before we move on to the next question I had prepared for you, did you want to go a little bit more into what some of these other things were?
So I'm not able to share
Okay.
because I'm in active litigation, but the
All right. Well,
environment wasn't really conducive to a multicultural, or even not even so much multicultural, but multiracial, diverse workforce. It wasn't very inclusive at all. Uh,
and it wasn't even conducive to fostering an environment where Black people
no.
would want to work. Huh?
Yeah, no, 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 no. I mean, I was really happy when my time was over there. Even my former boss, he was actually very cool. He was wonderful. But, he had even said to me, "Oh, okay, so we'll have a party for you or something." And I said, "No, absolutely not. I just want to pretend like I never worked here." So, so yeah, so I was done. I was done. As soon as my contract was over, I was out the door.
Awesome. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I'm glad you was at least happy to get the fuck up out of there. So,
Yeah.
so is this the first time you faced this kind of situation in the workplace? And have you had to file against employers before for this sort of discrimination?
No, this was over the top. I remember even telling my husband multiple times as I was working there throughout the year, saying, I feel like this is a joke. Like, I feel like almost there's like a, candid camera or something like that, because
Yeah.
it was so obvious. It was so obvious that I thought, this isn't real. This can't be actually really happening. So
Right.
but I mean, of course, as Black people, we've all, had to be subjected to, microaggressions, even macroaggressions in the workforce and things like that, especially when you're working in corporate America or spaces that are predominantly white.
Mm-hmm.
But this was, again, over the top. I've never experienced a lot of the things that had happened to me. I'd never experienced them in a working environment before. So
Mm-hmm.
it was completely new. I don't actually think I'll ever have to experience that again. I plan on, well, I have my own business, but I mean, even my clients that I work with now, absolutely not. But they also, it's interesting because the clients I have now, they're, really good companies, and they're huge companies. They're American companies. But it's interesting because they also have Black people in senior positions,
Mm-hmm.
and you can see how different that makes the work environment. One of my clients, they have a black uh a black woman who is at a senior level, and the working environment is so different. It's so different. It's not, you know it, I feel like people are more at ease um, than they would have been in other environments that I've seen and or that I've been in. So yeah, so I really doubt I'm ever going to have to experience anything like this again.
Okay. So so one question I had prepared to ask was, just, kind of figuring out why you didn't want to take it to HR. But as I'm talking to you, it kind of just feels like this isn't really the sort of thing and this sort of work environment that like HR would even be equipped to deal with if they even cared to listen to what you had to say in the first place, right?
Yeah, I mean, because the thing is, and this was something that also came up because I'm in appeals right now because the first trial, I guess you could say, wasn't successful. I wasn't successful, so I appealed it. And you know, that was one of the first questions they had asked. And, explaining to people that, I mean, you obviously know this, but for some reason, other people, I don't know if they don't know this or if they don't want to know this, but, HR years ago, HR was, lauded as this, amazing modern way of doing business and people management and things like that. And, these companies moved away from unions
Mm-hmm.
and, and moving away from unions, which are pro employee and, they protect us and things like that. So moving away from unions to decide to, or not decide, but to start up with, these corporate bodies, these very bureaucratic systems like HR specifically, they, these are very pro employer. So their clients are the employer. They're not us, you know? So this isn't a system that is conducive to me being able to tell them when something is happening, me being able to tell them I've been ostracized or different things have happened to me because their HR's ultimate client is not me. HR's client in this case would have been VMware. So I knew for a fact there's no way that me as a temporary worker on a 1-year contract, me explaining to them that, so and so did this, so and so did that. And these are white men that
Mm-hmm.
I would have been telling on basically and approaching HR about this. I already knew, no way. They'd get rid of me. My contract would be done and that would be it.
Best
There's
case,
no way
best
because
case
those guys,
scenario is they try to force you to settle or something, huh?
exactly. Or, I mean, they just push you out, you
Well,
know?
that's why I said best case scenario
Oh,
because
yeah.
pushing you out is like almost certainly the course of action they would have like
Mhm.
put a settlement would have been like the progressive thing for them to do from their perspective. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, I
So
mean, the progressive thing for them would have been to not have HR, to just have unions. Let's
well,
be
yeah.
honest,
Well, that would
you
be
know?
well, yeah. That would be the radical thing to do, but we got we got a lot of work to do before we get there. So did anyone you work with know that this was going on? Did you have community with anybody who you feel like you could confide in?
Yes. I the other black person that worked there, um I spoke to them. Also, I mean, really everyone on that floor, everyone on the team, not everyone, I'm being hyperbolic, but I want to say about 85% of the people knew what was happening to me because I would tell them, you know?
Well, you chose to be the
And
loud black woman, huh?
yeah, exactly, and but of course you keep running into, it's interesting because when you speak to other black people or even other people of color that this happened to me, they don't question you because they know for a fact it happened
Oh
because
yeah.
they've seen it, it's happened to them. But even some of my colleagues, of course, they were white because it was all white basically, you know, questioning, oh my God, I'm so shocked that he did that. Well, you shouldn't be that shocked because
It's not
why
shocking.
would why would he say those things to you? Because you're another white person. He wouldn't say those things to you, So of course you didn't see it.
Yeah.
So so you come up against that, and again, it's a difficult situation when you are, as you know, as you've been through, when you're the only black person and you're the only person of color in a white space is very, very difficult.
Okay. So, like, the general response when you would talk to people was just like, yeah, you're definitely telling the truth. That's definitely, like, accurate to, like, what other people have gone through. But, so, like, is this not the kind of place that would even, like, foster enough support to, like, try to, like, get people unionized and, like, organizing against this absolute horseshit y'all be dealing with over there?
No, I mean, because the thing is, so even though people didn't, people were shocked to hear about some of um, the microaggressions and, like I said, macroaggressions that I faced.
Yeah.
They weren't shocked at, for example, me being passed up for a job I was qualified, because that had happened to loads of people on that team. Even that had happened. It happened all the time to people on that team, and people that are foreign, not Irish people, not white Irish people. This is people that are, continental Europeans. So they're French or German or something, you know what I mean? So it's interesting because when I told them, a lot of these people knew I was going to file this lawsuit, a lot of them on the team. And no one actually one person did say that they wanted to join this, but then they pulled out because they were scared about losing their job. And I just tried to explain to people, the more of us that get together, they can't do anything to all of us. And that this is the way we change this environment, not by going at it alone and things like that. I mean, I'm fine with going at it alone because I'm not scared of these people. I'm not from this place. I don't care,
Yeah.
But it's a situation of people just, but again, my husband always says that. He says, if people were more like you, Allison, or like other people, then these things wouldn't have even been happening in the first place. So it's going to be, that would be an uphill battle because I couldn't even get people to join this. And this is something small.
No, I don't imagine. So, like nothing close to the kind of workplace solidarity that would be necessary existed there, unfortunately. Huh?
No, nothing.
Okay. So, man, that's fucked up. So, but did you have any support other than obviously your husband, or was everybody just kind of content to just let this play out without offering you any kind of material aid or even friendly advice?
Basically, it was just, my friends. So my friends back home,
Nobody there though.
Yeah, like my black colleague, or they were on the campus too. They worked for the same company, but nobody on my actual team.
Not one person.
No, but I noticed that. I'm not trying to be horrible. Please don't take this the wrong way, or anyone listening. But white people will always circle the wagons.
What do you mean?
Meaning when one of them, this is happening. So for example, I'm filing this lawsuit against VMware for racial discrimination. All of my colleagues on this team who have seen variations of discrimination, whether they've witnessed it themselves personally, i.e. they've been subjected to it, or they've seen it happen to me or other people they've worked with, they're still, at the end of the day, they're not going to go up against other white people for me. They're not going to do that. That takes a very different, for me, in my estimation, it takes a very different person who's willing to do that, because that goes up against everything. Like, that goes up against everything they were taught, societal norms, all of it. It goes up against everything. So I feel like when it's a situation like this, they were always going to circle the wagons. I'm not from here. I'm not Irish. I'm not white. I'm not even from this area of Ireland. So my husband isn't from this area of Ireland. There's no never going to be a situation where they were going to, go out on a limb for me. That was never going to happen.
Because there's not the inbuilt sense of community for you to even rely on to even expect
Exactly.
that.
Exactly.
Okay. So tell me about Ireland. Like how we know we know its racial characteristics.
Yeah.
It's very pale for the most part. but what is it like to be a Black person in Ireland?
It's sorry, my daughter is playing. It's a horrible place. It's when I think of all the countries, because I've lived in Europe for a very long time. I've lived in Europe for years now, for basically most of my adult life.
I was going to say, from the majority, from all my talks with you, it seems like it's been about the past 15 years or so, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's been a long time that I've lived in Europe. So, and I've visited lots of different countries in Europe, and Ireland is to me, I find Ireland more racist than any other country I've ever visited. And I've been to Italy. I've been all around in Europe. I haven't been to a lot of the Eastern European countries, but I've been around pretty much quite a few places.
No,
And
I noticed the wording you chose there. You said visited, not lived in. So is it still? Are you still contending that it's not as racist as the U.S. or are they about on par with each other? How would you contend with those two?
no, Ireland is much more racist than the US. Much
Oh,
more.
really? How and so
Oh, definitely.
how does that materialize? Because we know what happens to niggas here. So what's going
Yeah,
on
no, I
there?
mean, but what I think people need to understand or be cognizant of is just because here in Ireland they're not killing black folks in the street doesn't make them any less racist or more racist. So, for example, whether it's racism in employment, whether
Mm.
it's
Mm-hmm.
racism in housing, whether it's racism in, social services, things like that, the hoops they make you jump through. For example, I went for a job and, when they speak to me or when they see my name, because my name is a very Irish name, everything is fine. When they speak to me and they hear I'm American, they even love it even more. And then when they see me, instantly, surprisingly, the position, someone else just came through at the last minute and was super qualified. And it's like, okay, yeah, whatever.
Oh yeah. You can just feel the hard R through how they stare at you, how they look at you.
Exactly. Or even the laugh. They'll have this little smirk on their face when they come out to meet me at the, when I'm in the waiting reception area.
Yeah.
So, because they weren't expecting this. They absolutely weren't expecting this. This was a shocker for them. So,
Right. Right.
so yeah, I mean, this place, and also the issue is because the Irish, I think again, I'm not sure because I'm not Irish, but I think the issue is the Irish think that they don't have the quote unquote white guilt because I mean, they were subjected to horrific abuse and genocides by the
Mm-hmm.
English.
Mm-hmm.
So they were never colonizers. The Irish were absolutely never colonizers. They were used by colonizers as tools for colonialization and white supremacy, but they themselves, this was never a colonizing nation. So I think they feel because they don't have that dirty history of colonialism that that somehow absolves them. And it doesn't, because whiteness is global. White supremacy is global. The white supremacist apparatus is global. And so their white supremacy is, or quote unquote, their power is imbued by the fact that they're white. So they can be just as racist as anybody else. They can be just as racist as Billy Bob in Alabama, you know? So I think that's also the issue, because they don't see how they don't see this. They're having a problem with this. For example, they still even mix up ethnicity with race. They mix that up still. So, I mean, what can you do? What can you do, really?
Okay, that's going to ruffle some feathers, but that's that's honestly how you feel about it. So, wrapping. Well, I mean, that's just seems to be the case. I mean, not to say that there aren't individual Irish colonizers in other countries, but that's a very different thing than
Yeah.
Ireland itself being. I mean, fuck, they were colonized up until the early 20th century. So how long have they? When was Irish independence achieved?
Roughly 100 years ago, and the whole island isn't even out from under.
Yeah.
The whole island isn't even out from under English control. I mean, Northern Ireland still has to deal with their issues because the English won't leave. So, so yeah, they still. It's interesting though, because the more north you go and the closer to Northern Ireland you go, the more they seem to understand. Then they understand really what this looks like, with what oppression really looks like. But the people farther from the Northern Irish border, magically, they don't know what's going on anymore. Or they understand it when it's the Palestinians being oppressed by the Israelis. They understand that. But not when the Black or brown people are in their own countries. They don't understand that then. When they're the ones doing the oppression, they don't understand that.
From what standpoint do you mean don't they understand?
Well, I think so. I say it all the time, really, but I really feel like, especially coming here, I saw it here, but I think the issue is that a lot of people, and especially the Irish, okay, especially the Irish, I think a lot of people don't actually have a problem with the system of oppression. Mm-hmm. They have a problem with their place in the system of oppression. So when the Irish were up under the English, they were up under the English for 800 years. I mean, the English committed genocide after genocide. They tried to wipe them off the face of the planet, so no one's doubting that. No one's arguing that point. But the Irish, they could understand oppression when the English were oppressing them. But now that they are, denying people of color jobs, when they're, doing all of these little things, painting or, saying Black people are savages and things like that, or they're very aggressive, things like that. When they are doing the oppression, when they are doing the oppressing, then they magically don't understand. Then they think, no, this can't be that. This can't be racism. This can't be oppression. This can't be, this can't be that, because we're the ones who are doing it now. So this is why I say that.
That makes a lot of sense. This idea that, like, hey, I mean, it's the Irish were slaves too mentality, which is like,
but they weren't.
What? Y'all were like definitely brutalized. Don't get me wrong, but like let's like not compare what they was going through to chattel slavery, please and thank you. Like
exactly. And also the funny thing is because sometimes the Irish will say that, even though historically there is no evidence of that. And also, indentured servitude is completely different than chattel slavery. Completely different. Okay.
But just come on. there's levels to this shit. So, and we're not here to erase anybody's pain. We're just like, come on, call your situation what it is.
Exactly.
I don't know. So let's wrapping it up. Is there like any final thoughts you'd like to share And like maybe you want to talk a little bit about what you expect to come of all this.
So, I mean, there's lots that I expect, but basically what I want more than what I expect, I want people that have been marginalized, especially here. I want this to be a catalyst for them to speak up, whatever way they can get justice for themselves, legally, obviously. But I want them to do it. And, because this place is a very, very hard place if you're different. It's an extremely hard place if you're different in any way.
Okay, for legal reasons, y'all, we have to say that it has to stay legal for legal reasons, y'all. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So, okay, I learned a lot, and I'm really hoping things work out for you. I know you'll be keeping me in the loop, and we'll stay in touch. And hopefully, next time we do one of these, you have like some good news and some updates to talk about. So, what is the process? What is like? How are things proceeding? What are the dates?
So I have my appeal. I have another. They call them adjudications here. So I have my appeal adjudication on the 22nd of this month. And after that, I mean, then the determination, they call it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a verdict, and then we go from there, depending on what that is, what that looks like.
Right.
So yeah, that's basically what it is. But I want to get it out as much as I possibly can now. And until this is finalized and until they stop paying lip service to diversity, until VMware starts to actually be a diverse company. So this is what we're doing.
Is there, before we go, is there any statistics, any data on the racial demographics of VMware, or is that something I should look up and
Well,
share
no.
later?
So I shared that before, but basically so I'm speaking just of Black people. So globally, their global workforce,
Mm-hmm.
the percentage of that is Black is a less than 3.5%, 3% ish.
Okay.
And executive positions, because I applied for a director position, so that's an executive position. That globally, the makeup of Black people in executive positions is less than 1.5%.
Mm. Okay, so
So
that
it's pretty bad. It's pretty abysmal.
no motherfuckers need some melanin in their life. That's what they need. That's
It's
wild.
good. It's good. It protects you from cancer, melanin.
Yeah, it does. Plus, it's just so beautiful to behold. Too.
Exactly. It's beautiful.
That's cool. So, do you is that about it? Did you have like any projects you're working on, anything that you want to plug while you got the time to do that?
No, I'm just really, honestly, I'm just trying to get out of Ireland. So that's my tiny project that I'm trying to do.
Okay.
But that's it. Nothing I want to plug.
Awesome. Well, we look forward to hearing good news about this having a working resolution for you. That was a pleasure to do this interview with you. We'll get this out to y'all as soon as possible. Solidarity, Alison.
Thank you.